بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. So a quick recap inshallah before moving on to today's ayat. We talked about how there was a time lapse between the time that Yusuf alayhi salam was sold into slavery and the time where the seduction and all of those things happened. So we talked about the importance of understanding and reflecting upon the Quran. We discussed some of the key vocabulary around these ayat and how the seriousness of the matter and of how much the wife of the Aziz took into planning out what she wanted to do. And then we talked a little bit about Yusuf alayhi salam's potential leaning towards wanting to have done the same thing. Then we talked about how they both rushed towards the door, and when this happened, they both found the husband of the wife present at the door with a witness, and then they had their interrogation back and forth, or their case in which they were discussing how they would determine what happened. And it was essentially, if the shirt was ripped vertically from the front, then he was at fault, and if it was ripped from the back, then she was at fault. So when they looked, they found that the shirt was ripped from the back, meaning he was trying to run away, and she was trying to grab onto him, so she was the one who was at fault. So then either the minister, either the Aziz himself, or the Shahid, the witness that was with him, one of the two said, Yusuf a'rid an hada, put this behind you, turn away from this. وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكَ, telling the wife to seek forgiveness for your crimes, for what you have done wrong. إِنَّكِ كُنْتِ مِنَ الْخَاطِئِينَ. Then we talked about some of the meanings of khati'in, and we discussed the lessons that we can gain from tarbiyah from these ayat. So from today, inshallah, we're going to be discussing from now up until the prison, if you're familiar with the story, inshallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says here, وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ امْرَأَةُ الْعَزِيزِ تُرَاوِدُ فَتَاهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Okay, so first things first, let's discuss the language. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا. What is the meaning of shaghaf? It's actually very beautiful and very deep, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this, puts all of this into motion. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا. They say the shaghaf is the outer membrane of the heart. It's the outer membrane of the heart, almost like a thin cover over the heart. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا means that love has penetrated the outside border, outside membrane of the heart, and has entered into the heart. So it's a way of showing not just her infatuation, but how intensely she was feeling. So the translation says, and a group of women in the city started saying, the high minister's wife is trying to have her servant boy give himself to her. Love for him has really taken over her heart. As far as we're concerned, she's clearly lost. That's what they said. Love for him has really taken over her heart. This is the translation that they're using. But the meaning of shaghaf is so deep, it's difficult to just put into words. Shaghaf is the outer membrane of the heart, and her love was so piercing that it went through the outer membrane, the outer layer, and into the heart. That's how intensely she was feeling. Then we get to inna lanaraha fi dalalim mubin at the end. The way they translated it is, she's clearly lost. Now we discussed the word dalal once before. And in what context was that? Dalal. Yes, the sons, the 10 sons were talking to their dad, or talking about their dad, and they said the same thing. We think that you are in clear error. And this dalal is not necessarily in terms of a religious going astray. In a religious sense, it means that you are going away from guidance. Here, it means that you are making a mistake, you are doing something that is wrong, you are losing it, you are going crazy, things in that idea. So when they discussed, when they described when they described their father like that, they said, they were thinking, we give our father strength. We are high in numbers. We have done so much for our father already. But still, he only cares about Yusuf, or he cares more about Yusuf than anyone else. He's obviously wrong, and he's obviously crazy. So they said, ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, because he is in clear error for this reason. Okay. What are they saying that for here? إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, same concept. She's clearly lost. Why would they say that? Why would they say that in this context? Think about what they said to the father, or why they said it to the father, and it's the same concept here. Why would they say that to the wife of the Aziz? Yusuf is what? To them? A slave. Yusuf is a slave to them. And she is, like it says, a high minister's wife. The Aziz has a high ranking position, some said only directly below the king. So why is the wife of Aziz, someone who is supposed to be in such a reputable position, going to go over someone, going, so crazy after someone who is, in their eyes, the lowest of society? Why is she risking her reputation, her, everything essentially for this purpose? Why would she do that? So they said, Inna lanaraha fi dalalin mubin. We think, as far as we're concerned, she's clearly lost. Okay, so let's move on from this to Imra'atul Aziz. What does Imra'atul Aziz mean? The wife of the Aziz. When was she described as Imra'atul Aziz before this? Hint, she wasn't. She wasn't. How was she described before? First time it was وقال الذي اشتراه لامرأته, to his imra, to his wife. The second time, Allah didn't specify exactly who it was when the seduction happened. وَالَّتِي فِي بَيْتِهَا, الَّتِي فِي بَيْتِهَا. That's it. Now this is the first time that she's actually being described as Imra'atul Aziz. In a way where, what did I say before? That when it's said as Imra'atul Aziz, then the Aziz and the Imra'a are being connected together. They're being connected together. Now the purpose of the women talking about this is that they are gossiping. The purpose behind this is what? They want to gossip. If they are gossiping, what is their purpose in explicitly mentioning who they're talking about by saying the wife of the Aziz? What benefit do they have, or what are they trying to accomplish from that? The bigger the stature, the bigger the gossip. Yes, but what is the purpose behind explicitly mentioning Imratul Aziz? What is the goal? Who? Imratul Aziz. Oh, so they're saying that why is a married woman doing this, mentioning Imratul Aziz? Okay. Yeah. How so? just by gossip. Okay? Any other question? Any other guesses? Imra'atul Aziz. Here's let me go to number 2 and then we'll come back to this question. Then we'll come back to this question and see if there's another answer. Okay, who were these women? Number 2, who were these women? So Al-Kalbi, he said that there were 4 women who were involved. All 4 of these were the wives of high-ranking government officials. All 4 of these women were the wives of high-ranking government officials. So when he says وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ, these women were the wives of high-ranking government officials. Now let me ask you the same question again. Why are they explicitly mentioning Imra'atul Aziz? Good. Okay, so we're coming closer. They're judging her. Okay. Trying to get the minister's attention. Okay, see that? Okay. They say the reason why she was explicitly mentioned here, Imra'atul Aziz. So now going all the way back. When she was committing a crime, committing the sin of the seduction, did Allah explicitly mention who it was? No. Allah leads us to believe who it was by saying the woman who was in the house. Very implicit way, we figure it out by ourselves, but he didn't shame her in that way. By naming someone explicitly in a crime or in something shameful that they did, the purpose is to shame them, to disparage them, to put them down. So if it's described that this, someone in the masjid started to yell in the middle of the khutbah. Okay, the purpose here is to discuss the yelling and that the incident happened. But you point out one specific person, and then you go around telling people, this person did this. Then it's not just about talking about the incident and that it occurred, it's about shaming that person or about lowering the reputation by showing something bad about that person. Here, they were all the wives of the ministers, of other ministers' wives, or other high-ranking government officials' wives. What would be their purpose in talking poorly about the wife of another minister? To bring that whole family down. Politics. Politics. That's a summary of everything. Politics. So they are bringing the other women, they're bringing Imratul Aziz down. Why? Because then, if the entire family of the reputation of her and the Aziz, because they're explicitly mentioning the Aziz had nothing to do with it. So why are they saying Imra'atul Aziz? They're saying it to disparage the Aziz as well. This is happening inside of his home. He has no control over it. He has his wife doesn't listen to him. He's not able to satisfy her. All of these different things come up. So, his reputation goes down. As a result, his work will be influenced. The people's opinion of him will be influenced. And he may lose his job. He was directly beneath the king, and the others were not. So as a result, their husbands may go up in a position. Okay, so there are 3 types of speaking about someone else that is haram. 3 types of speaking about someone else that is haram. What are they? I'll give you one, the easy one. Ghiba, backbiting. Then, to accuse someone is one thing, but if it's not a question but it's a statement, then what would you call it? Dhulm? A false accusation, okay, would be buhtan. Buhtan, that's lying against someone. And number 3, that has its own rules, but we're talking about only the outward bad ways of gossip. Ghiba, buhtan, and namima. Namima is number 3. What is ghiba? Ghiba is to mention another person behind their back. Had they been present, they would not have liked it. This is ghiba. Sorry? Active munafiq. Okay, yeah. Number 2 is buhtan. Buhtan is to accuse someone of something that they did not do. Slander. Slander them. And number 3 is namima. Namima is to take information from one place and to bring it to another place with ill intentions. Gossip, rumor mongering, these different things. So, even it could be something as simple as these people were talking about you and bringing it all the way to someone else with the intention to cause fasad and to cause more problems. Namima. To be in the group of one group of people who happens to mention that something happened in someone else's house, and then you take that information and you go to other people and you say, hey, I heard that X, Y, and Z happened. This is namima. And the Prophet ﷺ said that namam would not enter into Jannah. Okay. Now, yeah. Buhtan is slander. It's to accuse someone of something that they did not do. Yeah. All right. So, significance of the gossip. Let's talk about the significance of the gossip for a second. One of the last things that we talked about, if you were here last week, was that there were how many people in the room during the incident of the investigation? Yusuf, Zulaykha, the wife of the Aziz himself, and the Shahid, the cousin of the Aziz's wife. Okay, these 4 people. Now, he said, "A'rid an hada," leave this, put it behind you, but he didn't mention everyone else. He told Yusuf, keep this to yourself, forget about it. But he didn't tell anyone else that. Why? We talked about this. Because no one else would want to talk about this incident. For the Aziz himself, he's not going to tell anyone. This is humiliating for him that his wife is doing this. For the witness who saw it, he's not going to tell anyone because he has ghaira over his family. He has this protective jealousy. I don't want people knowing that my cousin did this. The wife herself, she's not going to tell anyone because it's shameful for her for what she did. And Yusuf was told explicitly by the king, or by the Aziz, or by the witness, don't tell anyone, just leave it, just let it go. Okay. Now, وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ امْرَأَةُ الْعَزِيزِ تُرَاوِدُ فَتَاهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. The women are talking about how the wife of the Aziz did this. How did word get to them? There's only 4 people in the room. How did word get out? How did the gossip start? There's only 2 options. One is what? Very clearly, it had to be one of the 4 people. The second is what? It was neither of the 4 people. If it was neither of the 4 people, then how did it happen? How did gossip spread? Someone was listening? Okay, good. So, they say, 2 main opinions here. The first is, the wife of the Aziz, she went herself to the other women, and she sat her down, and she sat them down and discussed the events of what happened, maybe as seeking support, or for whatever reason, she told them herself, and then it ended up biting her. Right? Why? Because instead of helping, they started to gossip about it and to make fun of her about it. That's the first opinion. The second is, it was not any of the 4 people in the room. It was other people who noticed the actions of the wife of the Aziz. So we mentioned this a few weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, when we said that it wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't a one-time thing that she locked all of the doors. This was the height of her plan. But the impulses, the desire for Yusuf was not something that was born overnight. It was something that gradually increased. So the way she looked at him, the way she treated him, the way she behaved with him, all of these things are noticeable by other people. They said that Yusuf alayhi salam used to go out in the city of Egypt so other people could see as well. Okay. There's a very interesting narration that says when Yusuf would walk out in the streets of Egypt, his face was so beautiful, it was so radiant that it would reflect off of the streets and the buildings. It would reflect off the streets and off the buildings. This is from the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam. All right. So, who gossiped about it? They said that it was maybe some slaves that were a part of the household as well. They saw it happening for so long, and then they started talking to other slaves, and then eventually it reached the level of the high-ranking women. So these are the two opinions about that. Okay, we talked about number 4 already. Now let me just mention one thing before moving on to the next one. They said, وقال نسوة في المدينة امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها. What does تراود mean? When is it happening? When is it happening? When is this action happening? تراود. How did Allah mention it before? وراودته. What does that mean? When? When? It happened already. This is past tense. Right? Like we say like سمعت, I heard, or أسمع, I am listening. So when they say turawid, that is present tense. It's ongoing. Now imagine this. You have a group of high-ranking women, right? You have a group of high-ranking women who are talking about this incident, but not saying that this happened. They're saying this is happening. What did we say turawidu means? What does it mean? Okay, seduction is the main translation. That's what usually happens. It means to vie for something, to want something, to desire something heavily. Okay? And we said that the reason why we named it like that because the word comes up in a different context later on in the surah. Anyway, for right now, it means to seduce. Does seduction mean zina? No, it does not. Because all 3 times that the word has been mentioned, nothing occurred. So right now, when the women are saying, تُرَاوِدُ فَتَاهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, she is trying to seduce her slave, and she's failing at it. Because they didn't say that she committed zina. They said she is trying to seduce him. But by the fact that they're saying that this is ongoing, a major incident has already happened, and it's still going on, that means what? That means that she is failing at what she wants to do. So not only is she doing something so lowly, not becoming of her status as the wife of the Aziz, but she's not even successful at her shameless deed. So imagine how frustrated she must be getting now. Okay, let's move on. I don't have my watch today. 9:14. Okay. فلما سمعت بمكرهن أرسلت إليهن وأعتدت لهن متكئا وآتت كل واحدة منهن سكينا وقالت اخرج عليهن فلما رأينه أكبرنه وقطعن أيديهن وقلن حاش لله ما هذا بشرا إن هذا إلا ملك كريم. يرحمك الله. All right. So this one is going to be the longest, and then the rest of it will be faster, inshallah. Okay. Language. So we have a bunch of words that we want to talk about here. Let's start with number one, makr. Makr. Makr means what in a natural place? We may have heard the ayah in other places in the Quran. Hum yamkurun, what is it? ويمكرون 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 ويمكر الله والله خير الماكرين. They plot and Allah plots and Allah is the best of plotters. Makr means to plot something. It means to plot, to make a plan for you to gain advantage over somebody else. Okay. Why is it mentioned as plot here? Let me read the translation. Okay, let me read the translation. When she got word of their muckraking, she went for them and arranged a relaxing setting for them. Then handed each one of them a knife and called, come on out to them. So when they laid eyes on him, they were awestruck by him and sliced into their hands and called out, good God, no way is this a human. This can only be a noble angel. All right, there's so much here. I'm getting excited to talk about it. Makr is to plot, but here it says muckraking. And if you look at another translation, it might say plot or whatever. But what were they doing? What were they doing? In the previous ayah, they were just talking about what the incident that happened and what was going on, right? And what was the name of this at the top? Gossip. They were doing what? Gossiping. So why is it described as makr? Why is their gossip described as makr then? So the scholar said, Imam Razi, he says that there are three potential opinions and three potential possibilities. We'll talk about that. The first was they heard of Yusuf alayhi salam's beauty. They heard of how beautiful he was, but they didn't have a chance to see him. So as a result, they were purposely gossiping in a way that they would get caught, so that because they knew that the wife of the Aziz would bring them out for, to settle the score or whatever, and have them see him. So they purposely did that. And the reason why it's described as makr is because this is their internal intention. They were gossiping out loud, but what's inside of their heart is to make this plot so that they can see Yusuf alayhi salam. That's the first one. Number two, was the opinion that I told you earlier on, was she was the one that went and told these other high-ranking women about the incident, and then they broke her confidence, they broke her trust, started to talk amongst one another and to gossip about it. So it is referred to as makr because it was treacherous what they did. It was treacherous what they did. And the last possibility is that makr is, what they were doing is gossip. And gossip is done behind people's back, and it always has some kind of a reason behind it. It's always done for evil reasons. Gossip is always done for evil reasons. So that's why, because of its evil nature, it was called makr. Okay. But they translate it here as muckraking. What does muckraking mean? Anyone know? It's not a regular English word. And honestly, makr in Arabic makes more sense. But it's really cool how makr is in the actual word. That's why they chose this for in the Bayina translation. So one of the translators, Dr. Sahib, he mentioned the reason why he included muckraking here is because the definition of muckraking is to dig for dirt on an opponent or someone who you want a scandal to affect their reputation. To dig up dirt on someone else, or you want a scandal to affect their reputation so that it brings them down. That's what we were mentioning before, right? The noble women, right? The high-ranking women were doing something to push the other women down so that the whole family and the Aziz also goes down. So that's the meaning of muckraking. Okay. Okay. So what happens here? Let's discuss this. She hears all of the gossip and all of the words that are being said around, and she gets sick and tired of them. أرسلت إليهن وأعتدت لهن متكئة. So she prepared a muttaki'ah for them. What is muttaki'ah? It means, originally it is a place where cushions are laid down for people to relax. But there is also food that is brought into the setting. Okay, so like, you would sit against the wall, but the carpet may be too hard, so they put cushions underneath. That's what the muttaki' is. Here, she's describing this as muttaki' because this was put out, and so was food. Food was also put out. So it was a sitting for food. وَأَعْتَدَتْ لَهُنَّ مُتَّكِئًا. She prepared this muttaki' for them. Like a dinner table gathering. Everyone is sitting down on the floor on cushions. They're comfortable, and there's food involved. وَآتَتْ كُلَّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِّنْهُنَّ سِكِّينًا. And she gave every one of them a knife. Why did they give them a knife? They say that one of the opinions of muttaki' is that it is an utrujja, which means a melon. If you remember, there's a hadith that I mentioned after Isha one day about utrujja. And what the benefit of it is for the one who reads the Quran but does not act upon it. It's like a taste, something that has a good smell, but there's good taste and no smell. I think that's what I can't remember the hadith off the top of my head though. But there's this fruit has one characteristic but not the other. Anyway, listen to the hadith. For here, they say that muttaki' is another word for utruj as well, which is just a melon that doesn't have a smell to it. A melon that doesn't have a smell to it. So the way that they used to do it, I don't know if we can say it's the same as us or it's the complete opposite as us. But they would have their dinner, or their food, and then afterwards they would eat their fruits as dessert, something nice and sweet. What I see usually is people eat their fruit first, then eat their food, and then they have, like a cake, like something sugary afterwards. Anyway, here, what are they doing? They're eating. It's time for the fruit to come out. So everyone is sitting in their gathering. The fruit is brought out. Everyone has a knife. وَقَالَتِ اخْرُجْ عَلَيْهِنَّ. So she commanded Yusuf alayhi salam, come out to them. Now come out to them. Yusuf of course, he's going to listen. He can't say no to her. He's already on thin ice inside of the house. Things are not going well. So he comes out. And some of the scholars, they said that the wife of the Aziz dressed him up in the most beautiful clothing to increase this, the sentiment of his beauty. فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ أَكْبَرْنَهُ. When they saw him, they were shocked. When they saw him, when they laid eyes on him, they were awestruck by him. They were shocked. Why were they shocked? The meaning of akbarna here is a'zamnahu. That they made him into such a big deal. They were amazed by Yusuf alayhi salam. But we're going to talk about in a second, in number 3, what were they amazed about? Okay? وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. Then they cut their hands. So what does this mean? They had the fruit in their hand. They were cutting it. They were so awe-stricken by Yusuf alayhi salam that they didn't even notice that they had gone through the fruit and they were slicing into their own hands. This is the meaning of it. Okay. وَقُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. Alright, so now they say حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. What does حَاشَ لِلَّهِ mean? حَاشَ لِلَّهِ, actually the original form of this is حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. And the reason why it comes as حَاشَ لِلَّهِ is because of how often it's pronounced. They drop the second alif just to make it easier to say. حَاشَ لِلَّهِ instead of حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. The meaning of it is wow. They translate it here as good God. حَاشَ لِلَّهِ, they translate it as good God. But like we discussed earlier, they didn't really have a God that they believed in. All right, they were polytheistic mostly. They had multiple gods. So hasha lillah is a very generic term that they used because they were not actually using the word Allah. And the meaning of hasha in this is from muhasha, to distance something, to make something more distant away, to push something further away. In this, it means that you are pushing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala away from everything else, or God, or whoever they intended when they were saying it. It's very similar to how we say subhanallah. It's very similar to how we say subhanallah. All right. وَحَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا. This is not a human being. This is not a human being. إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. The only thing that this can be is a noble angel. Is a noble angel. All right. So this is what they said. So let's move on to number 3. Angels versus humans. Who is better? Who's better? Angels? Anyone else? MashaAllah. Okay, good. Anything else? Sorry, a little louder. So there's a big difference of opinion. It's not a small thing. There's a big difference of opinion on whether angels are better or human beings are better. One opinion is that the angels are better. The other opinion is that human beings have the capacity to be better than angels. Now Imam Razi, he brings in a very, very interesting point. They said, the women, مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. This is not a human being. Indeed, this can only be a noble angel. Why did they say that? Why did they say that when they saw Yusuf alayhi salam? Okay, so Imam al-Razi, he says that the majority of mufassirun, they agree that the reason why this reaction came from the women is because of Yusuf alayhi salam's beauty. Is because of his beauty. He was so beautiful, they said this can only be an angel. This can only be an angel. It can't be anything else other than an angel because of how beautiful he is. Most of the mufassir. Imam Razi says, I disagree. And he gives such a compelling argument. Beautiful argument. Let's just walk through it. When you describe someone's beauty, how can you describe it in Arabic? Okay? Anything else? How about in English? How about in English when you want to describe someone's beauty? Pretty, okay. Give me more adjectives. Okay. Yeah. MashaAllah. Okay. What else? Gorgeous. Okay. Anyone else? Fatana? Oh, fat. Okay. Flawless. Okay, great. So, all of the words that you mentioned, all of them, have to do with outer beauty, describing a physical characteristic. No one described a beautiful person as noble. Noble. Kareem. If you want to talk about the face of someone, describing how beautiful they are, would you ever say Kareem? What is Kareem talking about? Okay, for the generous one, okay. Okay, but generosity is where? It's external or internal? Internal. Kareem is a characteristic or a describing word for something that's internal, inside. You can say a person is this height, or this complexion, or has this much hair. These are words to describe the outside. But when you say the inside words, you use words like courageous, right? You use words like, my English is failing me, and help me out. Wise, great. Inside words, good. What else? Okay. What other words are words that you use for the inside that it's not tangible? You can't see it on the outside of a person. Trustworthy, good. Sincere, good. Kind, well-mannered, okay. See, humble. See, these are all words that you cannot see on the outside, that are not tangible. Kareem is not a word that is tangible. Why did they say illa malakun kareem? This is Imam Razi's argument. Why did they say illa malakun kareem? This is indeed a noble angel. Because if you want to do qiyas between two things, if you want to make an analogy between two things, they have to be an appropriate analogy. Otherwise, you're comparing apples to oranges. If you want to compare an apple, you compare it to another apple. Right? Two apples. A red apple and a green apple. You say the color is different between these two. But if you're taking an apple and an orange, they're not the same thing. Why are you comparing the two? If they're going to say, this is not a human, this is indeed a malakun kareem, then they are not talking about his external beauty. What are they talking about? His internal beauty. Good. Because he didn't do what the women wanted him to do. We're going to see more of that in the next ayah. But is everyone with me? This is Imam al-Razi's argument. And then he says, you can look at two different things, the internal and the external, when angels are angels versus humans. The argument of angels versus humans. You can look at two things. The external worship that they do of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the internal being of the angel. The external and the internal. When you see the external, they are praying 24/7. They are incapable of committing a sin, because that's how Allah programmed them. Allah made them and programmed them in a way that they can't commit a sin. So this is their external characteristics. A human being cannot pass. This is Imam al-Razi's argument. A lot of other people disagree. He says a human being can't surpass an angel because they're always in ibadah 24/7. But maybe a human being can. He says, on the flip side, the internal mechanism or the makeup of an angel is one that doesn't have appetite, has no shahwa. They don't have the desire for intimacy. They don't have the desire for food or drink. They don't have the desire for entertainment. So how can, he makes an argument, how can a human being fight that or go against that? How can a human being challenge that? This is his argument. Very, very interesting argument. But his point that they're saying this is not a human being, indeed this is a noble angel, seems to be that the women were not only fonded by his beauty. Yes, they were. There's a great amount to believe that this is what happened, that the beauty was there, but not only the beauty. The Prophet ﷺ, when he went on Umrah, when he went on Isra al-Mi'raj, he saw Yusuf alayhi salam in the third heaven. And he described how beautiful Yusuf alayhi salam was. And then it was said that Yusuf alayhi salam had either half of beauty or 1/3 or 2/3 of beauty. Half of beauty, and all of other humanity had the other half. So he was beautiful. Physically he looked amazing. But his internal characteristics were beautiful as well. Why? Talk about that here. قالت فذلكن الذي لمتنني فيه ولقد راودته عن نفسه فاستعصم ولئن لم يفعل ما آمره ليسجنن وليكون من الصاغرين. She said, so there you have it. He's the one you were criticizing me about. And yes, I did try to have him give himself to me, but he held his ground. Now, if he doesn't do whatever I tell him to, I swear he will be imprisoned and he'll join the ranks of the disgraced. Okay. Before we finish, I want someone to remind me. There was one point that I forgot on this self-defense slide. But I think it's very important, and I want to end the class with that today, inshallah. Okay. So now what happens here? She said, this is why I messed up. Here's my proof. Here's my reason. Now you see it too. You see it for yourselves. Imagine how difficult it has been for me. She says, without any shame. She says, and yes, I did try to have him give himself to me. Without any shame, she exposes herself. Without any shame, she just says that. Yes, this is what happened. Which goes even more to show the depravity of the wife of the Aziz. But she says, فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. He held his ground. And we're going to talk about what that means. But for number one, Yusuf's innocence. She is explicitly clearing Yusuf alayhi salam's name. Explicitly clearing his name. He did nothing wrong. فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. Okay, what does that mean? Everyone right now at this point, their hands are cut, they're bleeding. Right? Because of how Yusuf alayhi salam looked. So, there's one of two things that could have happened. Either she told Yusuf alayhi salam to leave at this point, or she was still there. فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. He is completely cleared of having done anything that is wrong. Here in this ayah is the proof Imam al-Razi uses for why his internal beauty outweighed his external beauty. وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. I did try to seduce him. I did try to get him to lean towards me. فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. But he held his ground. He was not willing to compromise on his principles. He was a young man. He was never married. It was in the house of someone who no one else could have possibly found out. The doors were locked in 7 layers of locks. He could have done it, but he didn't. He held his ground. This was amazing to them. This was a representation of his inner beauty. Because he had that mindfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that taqwa. He knew. This is going back to the ilm and the hukm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him before. This is the knowledge that it is haram to commit zina, and he gave him the understanding of the punishment of zina in the hereafter. So as a result, he followed that here. فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. He held his ground, and he was not going to mess up over here. So what was her only option at this point? Humiliated in front of all of these women. A high-ranking woman who was going after the lowest of society, a slave. What was her only option at this point? وَلَئِن لَمْ يَفْعَلْ مَا آمُرُهُ. If he doesn't do what I tell him to do now. Which is what? To go through with the zina. لَيُسْجَنَنَّ وَلَيَكُونًا مِّنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. Then two things will happen to him. She threatens him with two things. The first is prison. I'm going to throw him in prison. And the second, he'll join the ranks of the disgraced. Meaning, مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. What is صغار? Saghar is to humiliate and make someone else look lowly or small to other people, to make them look deprived and depraved. It is to ruin someone's reputation. Yusuf alayhi salam was a prophet, the son of a prophet, the son of a prophet, the son of a prophet who was the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He came from a perfect lineage. He was illegally sold into slavery. But he had knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and wisdom. And in doing so, he held self-respect and he held nobility and a good character. If it was spread around the town that he has done something wrong, then it would diminish his respect to other people. So for those of you who know the story already, we'll get there when we get there inshallah, but for you, those who know the story, what does Yusuf alayhi salam do later on to circumvent this, to fix this problem? وَلَيَكُونًا مِّنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. What does he do later on, if you know the story already? He's in prison and he's refusing to leave. Until? A little louder. Until he's exonerated. Until the king brings these women and says, what happened? Make it public that he didn't do anything wrong. He's exonerated in front of the entire country. This is the effect. وَلَيَكُونًا مِّنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. Do you know which ayah? He described shaitan like this actually. I can't, but maybe. Okay. وَلِيَكُونًا مِّنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. Let me see. فَاخْرُجْ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. الصَّاغِرِينَ only comes for shaitan. فَغُلِبُوا هُنَالِكَ وَانْقَلَبُوا صَاغِرِينَ. Yeah. Yeah, but in this context, it's the same idea. Saghirin for them is they thought that they were the best magicians in the world. That's why Fir'aun purposely brought them. But they were turned around and humiliated. So they were disgraced. They were not the best of their types. That's why Saghirin, they were made to be small. Saghirin from Saghir, they were made to be small. Here, وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ means his reputation will be made to be small in the context that it will be that he is a lowly person, depraved person. Okay, lastly, فَذَلِكُنَّ. Why did she say فَذَلِكُنَّ? If you wanted to describe something, how do you say that in Arabic? ذَلِك. How do you say this? هذا. Why did she say ذَلِكُنَّ? The kunna is because there were multiple women. The kunna is because there's multiple women. But why did she say ذَلِكَ instead of هذا? You can say for وَهَذَا أَخِي. He says that هَذَا أَخِي at the end of this surah. ذَلِكَ is for the women. Sorry, ذَلِكَ is for Yusuf. ذَلِكَ is Yusuf. it wouldn't lower his sense, because he says it for his brother. He doesn't want to bring his brother down. وَهَذَا أَخِي أَنَا يُوسُفُ وَهَذَا أَخِي. He doesn't want to bring his brother down. ذَلِكَ can be for one of two reasons. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's talking about this book, He says ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. Right? This is a way of showing emphasis of the importance of something else. So there's two reasons, or two possible reasons why she said ذَلِكُنَّ. One, the simple reason that the scholars give is because Yusuf alayhi salam had already left the room. He wasn't physically present, so he can't say hada anymore. They say dhalika, he's gone now. That's the simple reason. The other reason is much, much deeper. And this is from Imam from Zamakhshari. He says, the women were all speaking ill of her, saying that she wants this relationship, or she's in love with a slave. When they saw him and went into shock, she said to him, this one you have just seen is the Canaanite slave concerning whom you criticize me. Essentially meaning, when she says ذَلِكُنَّ, she's saying, look, that is the reason why I did what I did, and now you understand how I fell to this level. It's because of what you see. So it's not just explaining to them about Yusuf's physical presence. It is about bringing in everything that has happened in the past to emphasize that is the reason why. Which nun? Dali kunna? No, the kunna is because it's hunna. She's speaking to them. Dali kunna. You can add the dhamir at the end, dhamir muttasila, for ism asma al-ishara, in terms of who you are speaking to. Yeah, but if the kaf is mukhatab, for the one you're speaking to. So if I said dhalika, I would say dhalika to you. Like, dhalika amin. But if I was speaking to her, I would say dhaliki amin. Because it's the one who I'm speaking to that gets the dhamir at the end. Yeah. So when she says dhalikunna, the kunna is in reference to all of the women. Okay. So that's that. Now, last one, inshallah, we'll finish this. قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه وإلا تصرف عني كيدهن أصب إليهن وأكن من الجاهلين فاستجاب له ربه فصرف عنه كيدهن إنه هو السميع العليم ثم بدا لهم من بعد ما رأوا الآيات ليسجننه ثم بدا لهم من بعد ما رأوا الآيات ليسجننه حتى حين. Okay, I'll read all of the English and then we'll go into it. He said, Master, I'd prefer prison over what they're calling me to. Now, if you don't steer their scheme from me, I might succumb to them and act like the impulsive. So his nurturing master did respond to him by diverting their scheme from him. For he is the true hearer and knower. Sometime later, upon observing all the signs, it became clear to them that they must imprison him for an undefined time. So much to go. All right, so let's understand what this scene is. The women were around let's say the dinner table, right? It's on the ground. They're all sitting on their cushions. They just cut their fingers. Blood is flowing down. Yusuf alayhi salam just walked in. He went over there, and now the wife of the Aziz is telling all of the women, look, this is the reason why. Now, she is saying, if he doesn't do what I want him to do. Meaning she has not only the conviction that I am going to go commit zina with him, but now she has the support of everyone that's there as well. Now, if you're married, your wife has a party at home. Where are you? Where are you going? The masjid. You get kicked out. Yeah? You get kicked out for a little while. All the women are going to be inside the house, you have to go somewhere else. Yes? All of the women are inside of the house of the Aziz. Where is he? Out. He's not going to be inside of the house. He's going to be out somewhere. Now, all of the women agree. She can do whatever she wants to do. What are the chances that Aziz is going to come back right now? Very low. Very low. We know what happens if the wife is having a party and we interrupt. He knows too. So he's not going to come home right now. She knows this is the perfect chance now. Okay. So all of the women, they get together and they turn into an echo chamber now. They all realize Yusuf's beauty. They know that this is justifiable to them. They know that this is justifiable. So she wants to go ahead and do it. The wife of the Aziz is encouraging, calling Yusuf alayhi salam to her. And the women, other women who are there, are encouraging what is happening. No one is speaking against it. When this happens, how difficult does it be to stay on the truth? Everyone else there is saying something against you, is saying the opposite. So he makes a dua. He calls out to Allah. Rabbi as-sijnu ahabbu ilayya mimma yad'unani ilay. Prison is more beloved to me than what they are calling me to. Prison is more beloved to me. I prefer prison more than what they are calling me to. Then he says, وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. If you don't help me, if you don't steer their scheme away, if you don't come to my aid, أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ. أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ, it means that you're going to fall into what is happening. It means to incline towards something. It means to incline towards something. If you don't come and help me right now, I am going to incline towards them. وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. And I will be, jahil usually is translated how? Ignorant. I will be of the ignorant. Here they said impulsive. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran that He will forgive all sins that were done by who? That were done by? No, it's jahala. He says, يرحمك الله. إنما التوبة على الله للذين يعملون السوء بجهالة ثم يتوبون من قريب. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only accepts the tawbah, the repentance of someone that does it with jahala. Now, jahala can mean one of two things. It can mean ignorance, meaning of not knowing that something is a sin. But the implication of that is, if you know something is a sin and you do it anyway, then Allah wouldn't forgive you. But that's not what the case is. Jahala here is to forget or to do it impulsively. To get up and to do it without thinking about the consequences or being blinded from the reality of the consequences and to commit a sin against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Sahaba, many of the Sahaba, they would say that committing a sin is jahala. Committing a sin is jahala. So he is saying, وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ means I will be acting impulsively. But the meaning of it is I will have forgotten what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught me of the effects of zina, the consequences of the hellfire and how it ruins someone in this world. And I will have acted as if I didn't know what the consequences of that are. So he makes this dua. Why is prison more beloved to him? Why is prison more beloved to Yusuf alayhi salam? He wouldn't be tested as much in the prison? No. Why is prison more? He says, أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. Prison is more beloved to me than what they call me to. Meaning, it's more beloved to me than committing zina. So that he doesn't commit zina. Okay. Very good. Beautiful. So, what were the temptations that were facing, that Yusuf alayhi salam was facing? Zulaykha, the wife of the Aziz, that's one of her names, or one of the thought of names, was extremely beautiful. This is known. She was wealthy, and she could spend on Yusuf alayhi salam as much as he would ever want. Number 3, at this point, the women, they had gathered all around, and they were either persuading Yusuf alayhi salam or threatening Yusuf alayhi salam with something. So this was the scene. And Yusuf alayhi salam feared that he would get killed if he didn't comply. So he said, prison is more beloved to me than what is going on over here and how they want me to commit zina. And the reason why is because prison is a temporary punishment. It is a temporary, immediate punishment. Compare that to the forever punishment, eternal punishment, the severe punishment of the hellfire for someone that commits zina. So he says, prison is more beloved to me because it will save me from having fallen into this egregious sin. And what does he do in this moment? He says he makes dua. This is the first thing Yusuf alayhi salam does. He makes dua. Because this is what we learned from before as well. You cannot get out of a situation except without Allah's help. Yusuf alayhi salam had all of the knowledge, but he was placed into this situation, he couldn't do anything else. For all of us, every single one of us, at the end of the day, the only win that we can have, the only success that we can have is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us. That's the only possible way. Okay. And this is what the meaning of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is. There is no power, there's no authority except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end of the day, no matter what we want, cannot be accomplished except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping. Okay. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ. So his Lord answered his call. Now here's one thing that is important to remember. And I don't want to go into a tangent for this, I'll just mention this very quickly. There's a saying in English that is applicable to us here as well. The saying is, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. And the meaning of it is, sometimes you might want something, but it turns out to be bad for you. Be careful of the dua that you make as well, because Allah might accept it. Be careful of the dua you make because Allah might accept it. Allah accepted the dua of Yusuf here and sent him to prison. He sent him to prison. That is not the end that we want. He wanted to be safe, but that's what he said in the moment, so Allah gave that to him. A lot of times, we will make dua for something because we become so narrow-minded that this is the only thing that we want. Forgetting that Allah might have a bigger plan. Just like what we're learning of this entire surah, Allah had a major plan for Yusuf alayhi salam. Every small issue, difficulty that Yusuf had throughout this process was aiding him in that final goal of becoming the king, ruler, the finance minister of all of Egypt. And every single difficulty was a step closer to that goal. But then we may ask Allah for certain things that might completely take us off, our real ambitions or our real goals in life. It can be with, asking for a specific person when wanting to get married. What if that person is not good for you, but Allah gives them to you anyway? happens when parents make dua against their children. They get frustrated, they get angry in the moment, and then they just say it. And the dua of the parents for their children is accepted. So imagine in that moment of anger, you say something and then it comes true. Allah gives it to you because you asked for it. So the things that we ask for, we have to be careful for. We have to be careful of. Because at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has the authority to give and to withhold. But it's not necessarily what we want that we should get. Imagine we got everything we ever wanted. This entire world would be chaos. Allah controls it. But if you make dua, Allah might give you what you want. And that has its good parts, but it can also be something very dangerous and bad. So the rule, the understanding here is, the lesson here is, be careful what you wish for and you make dua for. Because at the end of the day, you may not like and it may not be best for you whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to you. Okay, then asbu ilayhinna and jahil. And I explained both of these already, right? How did he end up in jail if he's innocent? That's a question. Sometimes when you've heard this story before, people have asked this question. How did he end up in prison if he was innocent? He didn't do anything wrong. Obey who? Okay. Who put him in jail? That's the first question. The Aziz. Can the wife put him in jail? The wife can't put him in jail. The Aziz has to put him in jail. Okay. Now with that said, say what you were going to say again. So he didn't commit zina with the man's wife, so he's put him in jail? This is the conclusion most people come to. To just imprison Yusuf. Okay. All right. So that he doesn't go out and tell other people. Okay. To keep him quiet. Okay. What else? There's a whole bunch of witnesses. Okay. But the thing is, for your particular, for what you said, there was no other claim made against Yusuf. There's only one incident that happened where Yusuf was a potential suspect. In this one, she has already exonerated Yusuf alayhi salam by saying فَاسْتَعْصَمْ, and there was no issue, there was no additional claim that was made. There's no additional claim that was made. So how did he end up in jail? Okay, that's the last ayah here. Oh, actually, before that, before moving to the last ayah, let me say it. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنَّ. Allah imprisoned him to help him stay away from what they were plotting. Sometimes bad things happen to us in our life, but the reason why is so that Allah can protect us from something even worse. From something even worse. For whatever it is. Typical thing that example that I give, you sit down and your car doesn't turn on one day. Maybe you were supposed to be somewhere and the bridge was supposed to collapse on top of you. So Allah saved you from that by not letting your car turn on. So the bad things, quote unquote, bad things that happen are still a good thing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the mindset of the believer. Okay. Later. ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا رَأَوُا الْآيَاتِ لَيَسْجُنُنَّهُ حَتَّى حِينٍ. Then it became later, sometime later, after this incident happened, upon observing all the signs that it became clear to them that they must imprison him for an undefined term. All right, number one, heen, hatta heen. What does heen mean? It means some amount of time. Some amount of time. one of the Sahaba, Ibn Abbas or Ibn Masud, I think it was Ibn Abbas, he said, the meaning of heen here, hatta heen, is that until the gossip stopped in all of the city. Until the gossip stopped in all of the city. You don't want to forget that beginning part of this. The gossip had reached around other people, right? Other people were talking about what Zulaykha was doing and what was going on inside of the house of the minister. So he decided, I'm going to put you into jail until, let's say, until the rumors die down. Okay. Imam Razi, he says, when Yusuf alayhi salam didn't give her what she wanted, she said to her husband, this Hebrew slave has disgraced me in front of the people and told them that I tried to seduce him. What he already said from before is that she's the one who went and told the women. But now that the women are here, she's saying, he told all of these women what happened. I have no way to share my side of the story. So you must either give me permission to go out, meaning so I can go and clear my name. She wasn't going out, she was staying inside of the house. Or else imprison him like you have done to me. Or put him in jail. So he realized at this point, he knew Yusuf alayhi salam was innocent, he didn't do anything wrong. But again, politics. He couldn't risk his own name getting bad. So he caved into what his wife was saying and said, okay, if this is what is going on and other people know about this, then I need this to die down because I can't keep having other people talk about this. It was affecting my reputation. So I'm going to put him into jail. When it says here at the beginning, ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُمْ, the meaning of bada is that an opinion changes from one to another. Meaning that the original opinion was what? Yusuf alayhi salam was innocent, he didn't deserve to be in jail for any reason. Then it was changed. The opinion inside of his head, it was changed that he should go to jail. Okay, lastly, the signs. مَا رَأَوُ الْآيَاتِ. What are the ayat? They know, so the ayat could be one of two things. One is all of the evidences that Yusuf alayhi salam presented with from the beginning, meaning what the Aziz he saw. The wife, she had all of the makeup on, she was ready, the clothes. Yusuf alayhi salam was running in the other direction. The clothes were ripped from the back. All of these can serve as signs. But the scholars say that could be that, or ma ra'awul ayat. Another meaning of ayat, of signs in this, was talking about Yusuf alayhi salam's character. This was a proof of his innocence. It was a proof. He did not do this. He had all the opportunity. He could have done it for a long time, but nothing from his personality showed that he was someone that would commit a zina. So as a result, they looked over the evidence. They came to the conclusion that he was innocent, but they still put him into jail. Why? So that they could calm the situation. What ended up happening here? They blamed Yusuf alayhi salam, who was the victim, and they made the perpetrator look innocent. This is something that has been happening for all of time. For all of time. For Yusuf alayhi salam, thousands of years ago until today. This is something that is common and something that continuously happens over and over again. Okay. So what was I going to mention in the first one, just real quick before we finish? قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا إِنَّ لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Which one was it on that I said? متكئة وآتت كل واحدة منهن سكينة وقالت اخرج عليهن فلما رأينا أكبرنا قطعنا. Okay, yes. So Understand the setting. This is going to be this is my last point, inshallah. And just a reminder, I won't be here next Thursday. So no class next Thursday, inshallah. We'll pick up 2 weeks from today. They said, this is my last point. Testimony, my blood. One of the things about this, okay? Yusuf alayhi salam, understand his situation. He was in the house of the wife of the Aziz, and it was so easy to commit zina. Okay? We already understand that, yes? But he didn't do it. He feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he left it away. Okay. Let's look at it from the perspective of Zulaykha now. Let's look at it from the other perspective. I mentioned this in the very first class. The story of Surah Yusuf has many characters, and your job is to go through and see which character you resonate most with, and if you can kind of see anything in there for yourself. Here, look at the problem Zulaykha has. Let's put Yusuf alayhi salam to the side for one moment. He, as a prophet, he's a man. Zulaykha is a woman. Some said she was barren, she couldn't have children. Some said that father was impotent, her husband was impotent, meaning that he wasn't able to have intimacy. Okay? Zulaykha was inside of the house all day, every day, for more than a decade. So many years with Yusuf alayhi salam. So many years. And the husband was probably busy at work, all of these different things, and he couldn't take care of her in that way. He was the most beautiful man. He had the most beautiful characteristics. How could she resist? How could she resist? That's the question. Long story short, in our own life, it is so easy for us to use our circumstances to justify committing sins. I said this, I looked at this, I did this, I went here, I talked to this person, I did this in business, I cheated someone, I swore, I backbited, all of these things. Why? You'll find a justification. You'll always find if you want to look for a justification, you will find a justification for the sins that you want to commit. Always. Shaitan will help you come up with an excuse. But Zulaykha here, she had every excuse to want to commit zina, but still she is blameworthy for what she tried to do, despite the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the things into motion for this to happen. We are still responsible for our actions. We are still responsible for our actions. Our circumstances we don't have control of all the time. But our actions and the way we react, we have control over that. So if we choose to forget that Allah is watching, then that is to our own detriment. Something bad will only happen to us as a result. And we cannot use our circumstance as justification for the other things that are happening. This is just not a possibility. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept this on the Day of Judgment. Why did you go and commit a sin? Why? Just because everyone else was doing it? Just because someone told you to? Just because the room was closed and there was a lock on the door? Just because it was hard to not do it? No. Jannah is surrounded by difficulties, and the hellfire is surrounded by ease. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from committing these sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for taqwa. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sabr. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for knowledge of His religion. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.